Books have the potential and the capacity to influence our thoughts, our perception of the world, our perception of politics, our perception of immigration, climate change, the criminal justice system, engineering, science and mechanics, you name it. They can sway us to have a negative or positive view towards any topic. It is therefore necessary for the knowledge consumer to understand how books are produced. Academic books are produced in a factory, and that factory is called the university press. In some instances, it can be a commercial press. With me today are two items. On my left is a manuscript, and on my right is a book. The difference between these two items is that a manuscript has not gone through the process of manufacturing in the factory of the university press, but a book has gone through the process, so it is considered published knowledge. The manuscript is simply a compilation of information that is based on research. But since it has not completed the stages of manufacturing in the factory, it is simply a manuscript. But what does it take to convert a manuscript into a book? The series producer has a huge responsibility to educate the knowledge consumer how books are produced. So the series producer has to go and do research in the factory of academic knowledge, the university press, and study closely to understand how books are produced. For this transformation to happen, there must be 4 steps that must be completed thoroughly. We have often heard about revisions, reviews, and editing. All that happens in the factory. That is the university press. In some cases, it could be a commercial press. So when a manuscript gets to the factory for processing, it gets to the office of the editor-in-chief of a university press, the editor-in-chief of a journal, the editor-in-chief of a commercial press. The editor examines the manuscript to assess if the draft meets the requirements of the press. Remember that these editors are also series producers, so they examine the draft to see if it meets the requirements of the collection. The requirements of the collection, the requirements of the series. That's number 1. They also test to see if the structure, if the presentation, if the packaging of the ideas conforms with the requirements of the press. That's number 2. They also assess if the expression is swift and understandable. If a manuscript meets those requirements, it passes. It passes what is called an internal screening process in the factory, which is the first step of examination. When the editor is satisfied that the manuscript meets the requirements, he is going to send it out for peer review. The editor is a hunter. He looks for experts in that particular field to examine the manuscript. In most cases, those experts will examine that manuscript isolated from each other. Those experts are knowledge producers. But on top of being knowledge producers, they are content experts. So they are going to examine and assess if the manuscript is contributing new knowledge. If a manuscript is not contributing new knowledge, it fails to pass the assessment. If the reviewers are satisfied that the manuscript contributes new knowledge, they are going to send their recommendations that the manuscript be published as knowledge. Some revisions might be needed because the reviewers are very thorough. So the author goes back to work to make those revisions. The manuscript is then handed back to the editor-in-chief, who is also a series producer. and the editor examines to see if the recommendations that were made by the reviewers were done by the author. The author who seeks to be a knowledge producer. If those revisions are done and the manuscript meets the requirements of the editor-in-chief, the requirements of the peer reviewers, it then passes to production, to marketing, to packaging, until it becomes something like this. So academic knowledge, in most cases, it is tried and tested knowledge. The knowledge consumer must take it seriously, because academic knowledge can be cited. Academic knowledge can be taught in schools. Academic knowledge can be used for the industry. Academic knowledge can be used in government. Academic knowledge can be used in civil society. The series producer has a huge responsibility to expose the knowledge consumer to the knowledge industry in its totality.